Good evening and welcome to Sunset News on this Wednesday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I'm Aina Kweo. In the news tonight, former Deputy Information Minister Master Nawar Tisseb has described his move away from SWAPO to join the Landless People's Movement as painful yet necessary. Nawar Tisseb recently joined the Orange Army after extensively consulting his wife and immediate family, saying he could not serve in a party where his contributions were meaningless. Speaking to Namibian Sun, Nawar Tisseb said it was a natural decision he had to take. So many people are inquisitive about why I made this move. I consulted my wife and family wildly before I took this decision. It is a natural decision I had to take. I am myself unhappy, but I had to move on, he said. When asked how the move to the LPM affected his relations with his former SWAPO comrades, Nawar Tisseb said he was not negatively affected as he maintained good relations with his political peers. At the local level, we are 100%, but those who feel betrayed, it is up to them to isolate themselves. Locally in Tsumeb, we are all homeboys. It is only the shifting of goalposts, Nawar Tisseb said. Now moving over to our next story, National Youth Council Executive Chairperson Sheronise Bush has described resident statesman Hage Geingob as a champion for the youth, saying his efforts have helped shape some of Namibia's youth leaders. Now Bush, who served as a personal assistant in Geingob's first term, made the comments following the death of Geingob earlier this week due to cancer, and said he had an eye for sporting talent and nurturing it. President Hage Geingob was a champion for young people. He believed in our potential. He knew to identify talent, nurture that talent, but meaningfully giving us a seat on the table to ensure that in the process of nation building, to ensure that process of nation building, but also become a part of the solution, Bush said. Geingob's appointment for young people to parliament was also not a gimmick to score popularity, nor an act of tokenism, Bush said. Those that say it is tokenism, it really must come from a place of being uninformed or ignorant. Those that are saying it is tokenism do not understand that the level of preparedness that goes into preparing the leaders of tomorrow, she said. Geingob's appointment of young people into position of influence was also an investment into the country's future, she said. Moving over to our next story, angry Katutura residents gathered in front of the City of Windhoek Debt Management Department yesterday, demanding answers about a promised debt write-off of over 520 million Namibian dollars in debt. According to the resident, City of Windhoek made promises to write off certain debts last year and have failed to communicate further since November 2023. On the 30th of November 2023, City of Windhoek made an announcement in respect of debt relief. To an extent, it was called a Christmas gift by councillors. This relief announcement was vague, and even when we Katutura resident committees provided clarity, the subsequent announcement on the 14th of December still did not instill confidence in us. A letter by Katutura Resident Committee to City of Windhoek management read, the residents demanded to see the City of Windhoek CEO Moses Machai yesterday to hear from the horse's mouth what the delay in write-offs have been. Machai was accompanied by his management staff and addressed each concern by the residents personally instead of sending through a prepared document, alluded City of Windhoek spokesperson Chairperson Lydia Amtenya. Registration of debt relief will start on the 15th of February and will allow for 100% relief on capital amounts and interest rates for pensioners, 50% for businesses and ordinary residents. Pensioners who turn 60 and above after the 30th of November are the only pensioners that will be considered for the relief. Amutenya read according to the solutions taken by the city last year. Moving over to our final top story, Dr. Pieter van der Westhuizen has made a third appearance at the Swakopmund Magistrate Court. Now, Dr. Pieter was arrested last year in connection with an assault case. Senior Magistrate Conchita Olivier postponed the case to the 10th of September 2024 for trial and plea. After the break, we return with a community talk. Stay with us.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Yolanda Nell talks to Joshua Clifford about his free water initiative in Austin, Texas. Have a look.
So I generally just want to know how this all started.
Sure. So back in 2015 on my 30th birthday, I sold everything I owned to do a trip around the world. And my goal was 100 countries in 4 years. And I had a map planned out. I had an around the world ticket. And I was in Rome, Italy, maybe Montana in country something. And I was in Rome for 5 minutes, and 2 refugees from Nigeria approached me as I was walking to the Colosseum, and they asked for some money. And I gave it to them. And I said, hey, like, how'd you end up here? Let me hear your story. And they were not the standard refugee that would wind up in Europe from Africa, because they both had PhDs in architecture and actually skyscrapers in the capital of Lagos in Nigeria. But they were run out of their country by Boko Haram. And their story was so sad, and their wives were murdered.
Oh, geez.
And that made me feel really guilty. I was on a trip around the world, and that in 2015, that's when millions of people migrated to Europe. And in the United States, it doesn't matter what your news source and Fox, whatever, the news all said these are all bad people, extremists, terrorists, blah, 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 blah. These guys were great. And I know that they were the outlier because not many refugees have PhDs in architecture and have built skyscrapers in their portfolio. Actually, they're the only people I've ever met still to this date who have done buildings like that. And that opened my eyes, and I felt guilty. So I quit my trip around the world, and I started a profit foundation called Save the Refugees in Belgrade, Serbia, the capital of the former Yugoslavia. And I said, okay, I'm new to this, but for every dollar donated, I'll match it with 1 to 3 of my own. And a week later, a Serbian girl asked if she could volunteer with our organization. Now she's my wife, Ivana. And together we volunteered for 18 months on and off and worked with more than 10,000 people from 26 countries. And 1 in 4 said they left their country because they didn't have water or food. So I was like, wow, I'd heard about the global water crisis, global famine, but I'm like seeing it firsthand, mass migration will do to it. So I started just investigating what the UN and all the governments were saying to do about it. And I quickly realized all their proposals are bullshit. They say just to end the global water crisis temporarily is 350 billion with a B. And any child who could do addition and subtraction is actually less than 5 billion to permanently fix it. And you could end global famine permanently for less than 50 billion with a B.
Sure.
Even a child can do it. It's such simple math. And that bothered me. Why would they put such a high number? Now, I was a soldier, and in the army, they spend 10,000 on a hammer and 5 grand on a nail. So I was like, is that the reason? And that could be part of it. But if you ask me, and maybe I'm cynical, it's because they don't want to solve it, because water and food are publicly traded in every stock market in every Western civilization. And we live in a world where only things scarce have a value. So if De Beers they own 90% of the diamonds, if they opened those vaults and gave them away, what would a diamond be worth? Nothing. So in order for water, pork bellies, corn, wheat, cotton to have a value, in this current system, 10% of the world has to starve, and I think that's immoral.
Yeah.
So we created a new system, and free water is free because the packaging is the ad space. It was designed, the catch is they all look different. The catch is, that's it. There's really no catch. We're that crazy company that I've created more than 100 ways you could earn more than $1,000 from a free bottle of water or bag of potatoes. Most important, just from donating 10 cents per water, and we're already donating more than that. When 10% of Americans drink one free water a day, we donate 1.25 billion annually to fight the global water crisis. We'll end it without a penny of government help.
Yeah.
And free water is just the first product of our future free grocery store, called freegrocerystore.com, the free Amazon, if you will. So when 10% of Americans have one of our top 100 groceries daily, we donate 125 billion annually. And without any government help, we will end famine, housing, and medical issues globally.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Let's have a look at our economic news for tonight. Uganda's public debt stock is seen hitting 49.2% of gross domestic product by the end of current fiscal year ending in June, up from 46.9% a year earlier, the Finance Ministry said. The East African countries' debt levels have been rising due chiefly to government spending on public infrastructure. The central bank has been among those warning that debt costs are increasingly crowding out priorities like education and health. The Finance Ministry said in a report published late on Tuesday that the country faced moderate risk of debt distress linked to slow growth in exports and debt service cost eating up a growing chunk of revenues. Last fiscal year, Uganda used around a third of its tax revenue to service its public debt. As for June 2023, total domestic and external debt stood at $23.66 billion. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni's government has taken on large credit lines, especially from China, to fund infrastructure projects like roads and power plants, which officials say are needed to fuel economic growth. Now let's have a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades for 23 Namibian dollars, 82 cents to 1 British pound, 20 Namibian dollars, 33 cents to 1 euro, 18 Namibian dollars, 88 cents to 1 US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars, 62 cents get you 1 Chinese yuan. 3 commodities have dropped. Those are gold with 0.06%, platinum 2.56%, copper 0.62%, while Brent crude oil increased with a 0.33%. After the break, we return with the international news. Stay with us.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
In international news tonight, the Department of Education on Tuesday announced a new investigation into Harvard University's handling of alleged discrimination on its campus after a federal civil rights complaint was filed late last month against Harvard on behalf of the Muslim and Palestinian students. The students said in the complaint that the school failed to protect them from harassment and intimidation, according to the Muslim Legal Fund of America. The investigation marks an additional layer of the scrutiny on the university over its handling of rising tension on its campus after Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October. The Department of Education is already investigating Harvard and other universities over alleged incidents of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia on the campus. We support the work of the Office of Civil Rights to ensure student rights to access educational projects are safeguarded and will work with the office to address their questions, Harvard spokesperson Jason Newton told CNN. After the break, we return with the weather. Stay with us. Let's have a look at the weather predictions for tomorrow. Katima, Mulilo and Rundu, as well as Otjiwarongo, can expect a minimum of 18 degrees, while Enana and Tsumeb can expect a minimum of 19 degrees. Henty Spice, Swakopmund and Falfish Bay can expect a minimum of 18 degrees, while Lüderitz is expecting a minimum of 17 degrees and Oranjemund slightly lower with 16 degrees. In terms of maximum degrees, Keetmanshoop can expect a maximum of 34 degrees. After the break, we return with a sports package courtesy of Sports Rep.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraita. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
And now we will be heading over to the sports desk, proudly brought to you by Sports Rep.
Good evening and welcome to the Sunset News Sports section. I'm Jesse Jackson Kauraitha. The Namibia Football Association yesterday announced that all teams will be required to wear black armbands when league matches resume in honor of the late President Hage Geingob. Last Sunday saw the postponement of all NFA League fixtures, including the Debmarine Premier League and FNB Women's Super League, after news of the death of the sports-loving head of state broke. Tributes for the late president continue to pour in after the Women's Football Department also paid tribute, stating that they were deeply saddened by Geingob's death. The president of the Namibia Aquatic Sports Federation, Rand Steyn, shared that the news came as great shock. Veteran sports writer Carlos Kambaigwa on his social media bid farewell to Geingob. The second edition of the SPAR Namibia 10-kilometer women's race was launched today in the capital. The race will take place from Wanderers on 6 April and will see athletes battle it out for top honors. The women's elite winner will take home, that is 10,000, while the runner-up takes home 7,500. The third place gets 5,000 for their efforts. That is all we had for you this evening. Good night.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with soccer news first. English Premier League, and is defending champions Manchester City flexing their muscles again, and they back close to the top of the English Premier League. They beat Brentford. That was a away win for Manchester City in a midweek game by 3-1. They're just 2 points behind Liverpool at the moment on the points table, and they've played one game less. So it's Liverpool on 51 points after 23 games, and then Manchester City now 49 points after 22 games. Arsenal on 49 also after 23 games, and in fourth position at the moment is Aston Villa. They've got 46 points after 23 games. What happened in the game against Brentford, it was Brentford that took the lead in the 21st minute, and it was mostly in the first half that Brentford was leading. It was Neil Murphy that scored for Brentford in the 21st minute, and it was only in the injury time of the first half that Phil Foden scored a goal, and it was 1-1 at half time. Then Phil Foden also scored another two goals in the second half, 53rd minute and 70th minute. So it's Phil Foden with a hat-trick, and that helped Manchester City beating Brentford by 3-1. Moving on to cricket news, and it's South Africa playing against New Zealand, a test match that's played in New Zealand. Tough for South Africa. They're playing without most or all of their first choice players. They're all playing SA20 series in South Africa, and it is New Zealand's got a massive lead after the third day. They're leading by 528 runs, and so they obviously favourites to win this test quite comfortably. It is New Zealand that batted first, 511 in their first innings. South Africa replied by 162. And now New Zealand in the second innings, 179 for 4. That was at close of play on the third day. Captain Kane Williamson scored hundreds in both innings. In the first innings, he scored 118. In the second innings, he was out for 109. That was the captain of New Zealand, Kane Williamson. Fourth day, that will start.
And with that, we've come to the end of tonight's broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, which is called oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 as well as GoTV 25 in Namibia. From all of us here in studio, good night.